Hey everybody, this is Perch, and Future State is coming up pretty quickly in a little bit more than a month's time, just barely. We're about a month away from Death Metal coming to a conclusion at the start of January, and Future State will begin. And there's a lot of confusion around Future State, a lot of it, I think, generated by some pretty unclear marketing from DC and in many cases late marketing from DC, and then some pretty misleading news stories and everything else. But one question that keeps coming up, and I think this is where this is going to be helpful, is if you are a current pull box customer in a comic shop, you may be wondering, are you getting Future State? Is that comic going to be put in your box? Is what's going to happen if you're subscribed to Hawkman, for example? What happens to you? What comic are you getting, or is anything happening? Or are you just now one less comic is going in your box? So what I did was I talked to a number of other retailers and I sent out a little bit of a survey and I asked people, what are you doing in your shops for Future State? Are you automatically putting Future State books in people's pull box? How are you advising your customers of what titles align to what books? And a lot of them are self-explanatory, but it was really helpful. And generally speaking, of almost all the retailers I spoke to, with the exception of two, they said that if you are subscribed to, say, Flash monthly and it's in your pull box, you are going to be getting Future State Flash. They're automatically just going to keep putting Flash in your box. And that's the chances are that is what your comic shop is doing, is if you're subscribed to a book like Green Lantern or Flash that has some clear analogy in Future State, they're going to keep it pulling for you. So what I've done in this video is just try to break down the Future State titles and try to talk a little bit about what you can expect if you're a pull box customer, or if you're not, how do you know kind of which, if you thematically, if you like one character, what should you buy in Future State? So here goes. Kind of going down the list alphabetically. If you subscribe to Action Comics, then the closest analogy for you, the kind of title that many comic shops are going to pull for you, is Future State Superman versus Imperious Lex. If you are subscribed to Aquaman, you're going to get Future State Aquaman. If you're subscribed to Batman, you're going to get Future State The Next Batman. If you're subscribed to Batman Superman, you're going to get Future State Batman Superman. Catwoman will be Future State Catwoman. Detective Comics will be Future State Dark Detective, which is the only book that, in theory, is going to have Bruce Wayne in it, of the Batman books. Flash is going to confirm to Future State Flash, as is Green Lantern for Future State Green Lantern, and Harley Quinn, Future State Harley Quinn. Justice League is going to Future State Justice League. Legion of Superheroes is going to Future State Legion of Superheroes. Same thing with Nightwing, Shazam, and Suicide Squad. All have Future State books with those titles. Supergirl, if you were subscribed to that prior to cancellation, that is moving to Future State Kara L'Orel, Superwoman. Superman, and here's where it gets a little bit tricky, and one thing you will want to check with your comic shop on. If you're subscribed to Superman, your chances are you're going to get two titles. And keep in mind, some of these tend to be double shipping books, so you're going to get Future State Superman and Metropolis and Future State Superman Worlds of War. So one way to look at this is Superman, the book, is going to be more of the adventure Kal-El kind of and son John and their adventures, whereas Action Comics is going to be more the Lex Luthor kind of Citizens of Metropolis type storyline. Teen Titans is going to Future State Teen Titans, and then when we get to Wonder Woman, we have another case where you're going to get multiple books. So if you are subscribed to Wonder Woman, you're probably going to get Future State Wonder Woman, which is a Yana Fleur book, and Future State Immortal Wonder Woman, which is Diana, the quote-unquote traditional Wonder Woman at the end of time. And then there's 4 other books that are out which do not have a corresponding title. So if you're interested in these, you're going to have to subscribe or sign up for them special or find them on the shelves. And that's Future State House of L, Future State Robin Eternal, Future State Superman Wonder Woman, and Future State Swamp Thing. So hopefully this is helpful. I did this because I really just wanted to lay out for you. This is more or less what you're in for in terms of Future State and the books that DC has coming along. And if you're subscribed to one title, this is most likely what's going to happen to you in the world of Future State. Now, there's a bunch of different opinions on this. A lot of comic shops, it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Because Marvel and DC, but more Marvel, has been pretty constantly relaunching and rebooting series, a lot of comic shops used to have the policy of if a title got canceled, it was dropped from your pull box, and if you wanted the new book, you had to sign in. But when Marvel started, canceling things and relaunching them with high frequency, like yearly, a lot of comic shops got the complaints from customers who were then miss out on the new number one issue because they were dropped from the pull list and they didn't realize it. They switched their policy, and basically they said that, if a title like Miss Marvel, for example, got canceled and relaunched, that they would just sign you up for the relaunch, especially if it was happening a month later. And if you might remember, like Deadpool was canceled and relaunched a few times. And it just, the most appropriate thing for the comic shop to do would be just carry it over for you. However, where Future State is concerned, you are definitely getting a different universe, a different creative team, different version of the character. So I do expect that some customers are going to be a little angry about this, potentially. And it is causing some confusion at the comic shops about what to order and how much to order, because you can't assume that, say, if you're a fan of The Flash, that you're going to be getting a book that still feels like The Flash. It's going to be a very, very different character, different mandate, everything. So if you're a fan of Barry Allen, you're going to get something very, very different in this Future State Flash. Now, if you were looking at the comics this week and you saw DC's kind of Future State timeline, one other thing that comes up that's worth mentioning here is that all these books, all these Future State books, are not all happening at the same time. They're actually happening over, thousands of years, potentially. These books are, there's some happening in just a few years in the future, and some that are happening thousands of years in the future. And these stories are not all connected. So one difference, as I have and others have, compared this to Convergence. Convergence was telling all kind of a story happening at the same time, and it was bubbling up to kind of one overarching thing that was coming out of it. And Future State is not. These stories are all somewhat independent in the title that they're telling. And I think in that regard, that's kind of what you're going to be getting with the DC in March, and then through 2021 and 2022. There's going to be a lot of stories that are told throughout different points in time, and they don't all necessarily line up. That's the whole point of the Omniverse. That is less tricky. I mean, I think a lot of people have wrapped their heads around that in strange ways, and worried a little bit about what it is that they're getting, and is this going to destroy their universe as they know it, and so on. And it's not really, I don't think it will be as different as people think. I think that you're going to have a situation where these stories are going to come out. They're more or less going to be happening around the same time period, or if it's happening in the future or in the past, the comic's going to tell you that. It's not just, you're not going to be like 3 issues into a storyline. It's going to be like, oh yeah, by the way, this is happening 50 years from now. It's going to tell you up front. I think the key is that going forward, from March and beyond, not all the DC comics are going to be happening at the same time. And I think that probably sounds more confusing to say than it will be to read, because that's kind of happened already. I mean, if you think about it, right now in DC Comics, you've got Batman Joker War, and you have these different things going on, and you also simultaneously have Death Metal. Obviously, those are not happening at the same time. Obviously, those are happening in different time periods. And I think what DC is at least saying is that rather than try and explain that, they're just going to say, yeah, the fans will figure it out. We're not going to jump through a bunch of hoops to try and explain, what's happening where. And that's probably for the best when all is said and done. I think that it gets more, it gets more complicated and convoluted the more that they start to. This is a problem DC's gotten to. They put in crises and they put in different events to try and explain when all these things happen. And for a lot of fans, they don't necessarily care. They just want to read a good comic. They want to be entertained. They don't want to have any of this kind of silliness going on. But I hope this was helpful. If you're a full box customer, you want to know what's going on and where. You want to know what comics you're going to get. You may also be curious what titles you want to jump in or not. A lot of people are saying they're going to sit Future State out completely. That's fine too. But this hopefully gives you a little bit of an indication of what you might be up for, and you might just want to go, pop into your local comic shop and figure out what's going for you. What is going to happen for you with DC over the next 2 months. Either that you're getting titles you don't want, or maybe there's titles you do want and the comic shop's not going to pull them for you. Either way, it helps to be informed of what's going on. Anyway, hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comments below what books you're interested in or none. A lot of you have answered that question already, but we're about a month away now. So, and in the next 10 days, we're supposed to get the solicits for both DC in March, and also some indications of new creative teams and kind of what they're doing. So an exciting time over the next 2 weeks. Hope you're in for it. Otherwise, hey, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do. It would be much appreciated. Otherwise, hey, you have a great day, and thanks for listening.